Good evening and welcome as the Indy Elite Series continues to wind down. The Husingfeld Triple Crown heats up for the second segment here at the Tricky Triangle of Pocono. It's going to be a lot of Randy Chineth here tonight, as I am both working the cameras and the only person on the mic this evening. So it's going to be an interesting race we have here tonight. Only 140 laps around this Tricky Triangle. Of course, I think a lot of people used to the 500-mile races that we typically get here, but with limited fuel load, still going to be a lot of strategy involved for all the drivers. Now, of course, the interesting thing to talk about is coming into this one is who is up to win that Triple Crown. And well, there's only really one driver that you ever that could have it at this point, and it is Austin Espatee, as he won the Indy Elite Indy 500 sponsored by Husingfeld, and he is not in attendance this evening. So Austin Espatee will not win the Triple Crown of Indianapolis, Pocono, and Michigan, which means that some other driver will at least take one of these three coveted races in this championship. Speaking of the championship, let's take a peek. And there's only a couple rounds left after this one. Simon Bryant currently leads the way, just a little bit ahead of Joshua Chin, just 10 points. And I just want to double check to make sure this is indeed correct. And I believe, actually, no, I take that back. These are out of date. Sorry about this. It's currently Henry Bennett who leads the way in the championship standings. It's Joshua Chin who is in that second spot. I'll try to get you an updated graphic here once we get into this race, but it is Bennett and Chin 1 and 2, then Kinsella, Liam Quinn, and Joe Branch rounding out the top 5. Then he's like Holgate, Espatee, Downing, Walters, and Bryant. The 10 cars up and down the field here. Total points for your points leader, 439. Josh Chin is only 12 points behind in second. Kinsella, 39 points back in third. That's 39 points back from your leader of Bennett, not from second place runner Joshua Chin. Qualifying currently underway. Don't believe we currently have any cars currently on track, but let's take a peek. Christopher Demerit is sitting down there, potentially waiting to go for a run. Here's Brendan Lichtenberg, currently out there on a lap. So let's take a peek at what this driver is doing. He's currently on his second hot lap, does not have a time yet run for this Broken Arrow driver. So you see the speed going through here, 220 plus miles an hour, as you would expect at Pocono. Very, very quick racetrack. On the stretch now to that start finish line, he will go to, it's going to be P4, 41.322. So a decent run there from Brendan. That's going to be the only lap he gets, so he will not be able to improve on that one. Let's see if we have other drivers out there on track. Chad Simpson working his second lap right now. He's currently fifth quickest with a 41.343. He will not go quicker, as you can tell, and he's currently the only other driver we have on track. So the current standings as they sit, I'll bring them up for you right now. Currently, Joshua Chin on pole, the 41.296, the only driver to get down into the twos. Henry Bennett just a couple hundreds back. Christopher Demerit matched Henry Bennett. Brendan Lichtenberg only 6,000ths back. So only 300ths of a second between your top four. That should be a very, very exciting group. Then you get Chad Simpson, Andrew Kinsella, Blocker, Doc, Stouffer, and McBride, the top 10. There are only 17 cars currently checked into the server that have done a lap. 3 drivers technically owe us laps. That's Niles Anders, as well as John Downing and Ray Kingsbury. Ray Kingsbury pulls out onto the racetrack. So now we get to see what the LLM driver can maybe put together on a run. Christopher Demerit is also on the racetrack, but I believe he's already used his allotted lap, so this one might count. Let's see what he gets here. And yeah, that was an out lap. I think he's just doing a bit of practice as Demerit, so that lap's not going to count for him. So it's all eyes on Ray Kingsbury to see what he can do. He did not run any laps in practice. He just got into the server, in fact. So kind of a last-second attempt here to get himself down up to a quick qualifying time up to speed. Really cutting it close here as he's going to take the green flag on his first hot lap with about a minute to go in the server on what of the 41-second trip around this 2.5-mile Tricky Triangle. He heads off in towards turn number 1. So through 1 and 2, Egon Saturia is talking about the 2018 Toyota Supra as Kingsbury is in the wall, and believe it or not, that is not very good for your qualifying hopes, and that is going to mean that he's not going to get a qualifying run at all. He will get out there on the racetrack, but there will not be any time. Chad Simpson's going to pull off as well, but for the most part, everyone is pretty much done and over with for their allotted attempts. So, things to think about for this race. These drivers do have a limited fuel capacity, so even though we're not running a full 500 miles, I believe that technically the distance is 325. You have somewhat similar fuel strategies what you would get in the full 500-mile races, because it's about 70% different distance, 70% fuel, 70% generally equals 70%. So you're going to see a lot of pit stops, a lot of people coming down pit road. From what I understand, the pit strategy is going to be pretty straightforward. Anytime you get any more than a lap or two logged under green flag, you're coming down pit road no matter what. If a yellow comes out, and of course, if he goes for a long run, you're going to go for more than 2 laps if it stays green. But regardless, time has run out on qualifying. Let's take a peek down the starting grid for the second segment of the Husingfeld Triple Crown. Swan pole then, it's going to be Josh Chin with Henry Bennett starting on the outside of that front row. Chris Demerit and Brendan Lichtenberg on row number 2. Moving down, Chad Simpson, Andrew Kinsella on row 3 with Adam Blocker and Adam Dock. Adam on row 4. Christopher Nowell McBride on row number 5 with Tim Holgate and Andres Eek on row number 6. Andrew Wood, Joe Branch on row 7 with Brad Walters and Richard Holt on row 8. Adam Plunkett, John Downing potentially on row 9 with Niles Anders and Ray Kingsbury rounding out the 20th car field this evening. Let's take a look at the weather. Of course, there's the track. Well, never mind. Apparently, we don't have the track map for the new Pocono, but it's triangular in shape. That's all you need to know. 2.5 miles, 3 corners, 140 laps, 350 miles. It is a long trip around the Pocono racetrack. 41-second lap time for the Indy cars, which is pretty quick considering this style of racetrack, but otherwise is a pretty long time getting things done. But weather though, 80 degrees, 65% humidity, partly cloudy, 5-mile-per-hour wind, going 5-mile-per-hour wind. So actually pretty calm in terms of the weather settings. A little bit cooler than you would typically get for default. That southerly wind at 5 miles an hour really isn't all that much of a worry, I think, for these guys as they get themselves gridded up on pit road. Of course, a bit of an interesting gridding procedure here at the new Pocono. Don't do it by the typical 2x2. They line them up sort of on the, let's say, for show angle on pit road that you will typically see at most racetracks, be it IndyCar or NASCAR. They will often line the cars up like this as they roll off. You also see them do things like this at your local short tracks as well. So as Josh Chin pulls out onto the racetrack, that's going to allow the rest of the field to start cycling in behind. So, as it is just me here today, and it is a pretty long race, we will open the questions up to those in the chat, have some fun with it to a certain extent. So if you ask anything in the chat, I will at the very least look at it and potentially respond to it, unless you are from Team Chimera and trolling me. But it's going to be an interesting one. 17 cars, I believe, is technically... No, 19 cars. Niles Anders, of course, not pulling out onto the racetrack. So 19 cars, 140 laps is going to be a pretty long wait. And hopefully with the small field, we should be able to keep most of them clean and green the entire way, especially in the early goings. But what's going to happen here? You see road number 2, all broken arrow. But out in front, it's Team Chimera with Joshua Chin, your iRacing Indy 500 winner. Did not win the Indy Elite Indy 500. Therefore, he is not up for the Triple Crown, but you know there's going to be some bragging rights if you can maybe pull it off here. But down in towards turn number 3, of course, there is no turn 4 here at Pocono, which the outside retaining wall and the blue paint will remind you of in case you forgot. Thank you for joining us deep into the Indy Elite Series, as I'm sorry to disappoint you, Simon. The iRacing safety car pulls down to the safety of pit road in just a moment. And Josh Chin in command of the field will get on it. We are green for 140 laps of the tricky triangle, the super fast super speedway. in the Pocono Mountains as we head off towards turn 1 for this first time, side by side for second and for fourth. And it's going to be the Broken Arrow driver, Christopher Demerit, who takes that second spot away from Henry Bennett in this opening lap. But Bennett's going to fight back on the long pond stretch, down in towards turn 2. Up the inside goes Henry Bennett, and he's going to get that second spot right back. I know that Demerit is not a fan of his car in the draft. It is something he's spoken of in the past, as you see the entire field starting to fan out and get aggressive. Fight for the race lead, picking up though. Bennett wants to lead lap number 1, and Josh Chin will not yet be able to, but will he get the run coming off turn number 3 and down the front straightaway? No, he won't. It's going to be Bennett who leads lap number 1. So in towards turn 1 now. Josh Chin is going to take that race lead, and this is going to be what the bulk of this race is going to be like. Swapping this race lead back and forth, back and forth. A lot of dirty air with these cars, and there's a big draft advantage to those drivers in second and third, so look for them to get racy. You see Demerit getting a little bit of a run in toward the tunnel turn, not quite enough though to get there, as Josh Chin is now going to be enjoying that clean air. Fights up and down the pack though, as I think Tim Holgate may have just had some problems, maybe a little bit loose. You see him losing a couple spots. I believe that's Al McBride who just put the move on him. So at the end of the second lap, Tim Holgate, who started in the 11th spot, he was up a couple early, and I think he's just fallen back down at least one. No, he's still technically in that 9th spot, but he's going to lose another one here, as I believe that's Adam Dock slips up the inside in towards turn 1. Indeed it is. He's going to take that spot away. Out in front though, Josh Chin able to start opening up a little bit of a gap here. So starting to move his way forward here is Mr. King of Chins. You see the gap as we look backwards from that roof cam. Team Chimera, Team Talent, you see on the Valence, hashtag blame Randy. You can blame all the team's success on me. Josh is going to lead another lap here at Pocono. Bennett starting to fall back just a little bit. See the entire field, a one long train of cars at the moment. This is the style of race that will get strung out here over time, especially once we start getting in towards fuel runs. Still not quite sure what the fuel mileage number is. Maybe Simon in the chat could make himself useful and get me some info on that as we look at the 74 of Adam Blocker, trying to stay with that 14 car of Andrew Kinsella. Chad Simpson just ahead. Demerit still runs in third with Bennett in that second spot. 0.3 of a second difference between your top two. So Josh is really breaking away already in the clean air as the entire field starts getting themselves stretched out just a little bit. So through turn 1 and down Long Pond once again, his Chin is going to still just be stretching the lead. Tires already would have been losing a little bit of their life here. So you're going to see these guys start stretching out just a bit. This is typically the temperatures start coming up. The newness is of course gone. Not as sticky as they used to be. So you're going to see people pretty much from this point forward not really be able to be as aggressive. Those drivers who maybe have tires that are good on a short run, this will be when they maybe get a little bit, or they might have a bit of an advantage, might be able to make some moves. We see a couple moves happening in the back. I believe that was Bradley Walters maybe trying to make a pass. I think it was on Tim Holgate, who's not gotten up to speed with this new Indy car, considering the speed that we've seen him have in the IRO5 and in the DW12. Tim Holgate, he's really, I don't want to say he's been a disappointment, but he's not had the pace I think everyone would expect from that number 1 car. You see him actually running sort of the middle groove through the tunnel turn, I think just fishing for a little bit of clean air. You can sort of do that on this new paved layout of this racetrack as they run through turn 3, and you see I think the Holgate is fighting really tight at the moment. He's out in front, the fight's on for second. Henry Bennett has fallen into the clutches of Christopher Demerit. Josh Chin's going to be loving this as he's going to have nearly a 1.5 second lead already as they come off turn number 1 and down the Long Pond straightaway. That Broken Arrow car trying to work the inside on that 007 in towards the tunnel turn at turn 2. And Demerit's going to have the spot, but can Bennett work the cutback, working now down towards this short stretch? Off towards turn 3, no he will not. So the Broken Arrow driver of Chris Demerit puts himself into the second spot, but the question has to be asked, at what cost? Because Josh Chin had pretty much a 20 to 25 car length lead, I think maybe even more than that, and the gap is 1.5 seconds between Chin and Demerit in only 8 laps. So Josh is absolutely checking out right now. Demerit's not going to have any of that slipstream really off the car in front. He might get just a little bit, but it's not going to be enough, I don't think, for him to really suck up and reel in that Camaro driver out in front. So in towards turn number 3 once again, fight for second. It's stretched back out. Bennett's kind of just settled into that third spot, not really having the pace to really harass the likes of Demerit. A little bit of a fight back here. I believe that's Adam Dock, and who else is that? It's Andrew Wood duking it out here. They just swap positions on that lap. See that orange Dunkin' Donuts car cut down to the inside. Sort of middle to back part of the field right now is where all the action's really happening. See these two get themselves sorted out. Bradley Walters, has his hands full with Andres Eek. You also have Joe Branch and Tim Holgate duking it out, a couple of the teammates, as they work down towards Long Pond and in towards turn 2 once again. So coming up to the 10th lap here of 140, so the first 25 miles getting logged relatively quickly. Down the Long Pond stretch for your race leaders. Josh Chin, 1.1 second lead. So Demerit doing a good job of reeling this gap in. He was 0.2 of a second quicker that last trip around the racetrack. So maybe a little bit of draft for the Broken Arrow driver, or maybe just 10 laps in. Car and the tires may just be working just that little bit better. We'll have to see what the gap is though, as they come off turn 3 and down the front straightaway. It's 1.1 seconds last lap. This time the gap comes down to 1.0, so another 10th goes to the 144 car of Christopher Demerit. So he definitely seems to have the pace here over the Camaro driver at the moment, but how much of that is draft and how much of that is Chin maybe just cruising just a little bit? Once again, guys, feel free to get active in the chat. This is going to be a pretty long race, and we're likely going to see stretched out driving like this. This is what this IndyCar and what this Aero package does on the super speedways. You don't see the super tight, super pack racing. So because of that, feel free to get active in the chat. I'll interact with you over the course of this broadcast, answer any questions. Maybe you're not used to watching the IndyCars. I'm pretty, I don't want to say I'm an expert on them, but I am one of the Indy specialists over here at RaceSpot. I know quite a lot about how this IR18 works on the oval and on the road courses. So any questions about what these guys might be doing with the car, with the likes of the in-car controls, we'll talk about that over time. Will definitely be well worked. At 0.8 of a second, though, is the gap between Josh Chin and Chris Demerit. So that gap down continues to close for that Broken Arrow driver. So he's going to be happy about that, seeing that white and lime green car just slowly grow out of that helmet visor. See most of the field pretty spread out on that static camera. Race leader turning in towards turn 1 in the back of the field is just getting through turn 3. So that front straightaway contains the entirety of the field at the moment, which if there's any racetrack where you want to be able to say, oh yeah, I'm within a straightaway of the leader, Pocono is probably the worst one to do it at. Visitor says, I'm new on iRacing. What's IndyCars? Well, if you don't know what IndyCars are, you have a little bit more of a problem than being new on iRacing. That's definitely for sure. IndyCars are a very real racing series. Of course, they run at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway thing. You know, I'm sure you've heard the Indianapolis 500. IndyCars specialize at that racetrack. That's pretty much their bread and butter, where they were born at. That is the racetrack that they're known for racing at. They run at other racetracks, of course, as well, such as Pocono. They run Long Beach Grand Prix as IndyCars. It's either an interesting question for someone who's a hardcore enough racing fan to get onto a racing sim, or a pretty solid troll. I'll say that. Husky says, is this an open series? As in, can anyone join? Or there's some sort of process regarding drivers getting in this Elite Series? They're also a AM series. There is not a feeder series for the Indy Elite Series, but I do believe it is technically open for everyone. I will say this, the Indy community is one that they'll generally fill up the signups, and then over time, people will stop turning up. If you check the Dallara IR18 forum, you can potentially sign up there, or at least see and inquire about any availability. Might be able to get a spot. They typically open signups around the beginning of the year because this series does run year long. But it is pretty much open to anyone. AJ asks, what is iRacing? iRacing is a racing simulator, which is the one we are using here. Has all sorts of stuff you could ever want. NASCAR, dirt oval stuff, rallycross, you name it, they got it. As the fight's picking up for that fourth spot, Chad Simpson and Andrew Kinsella duking it out. Kinsella up the inside of Simpson. He'll pick up the spot for now. But actually pretty tight off turn number 1 there was Kinsella, so Simpson might be able to fight back in towards turn 2. The tunnel turn gets the nose down to that inside line. As they roll through turn 2, Simpson's going to get there, but it's going to be tight. Maybe a little bit of contact for those two through that second corner. So Kinsella's going to take that spot right back as they now roll through turn 3. But now they're going to have the likes of Christopher, Niall McBride, and Andrew Wood, who've checked into this fight because of that one little hiccup. As they scream down the front straightaway here at 220 miles an hour plus. Up the inside goes that number 74 of Adam Blocker on. I believe that is Chad Simpson once again. Or excuse me, no, that's Blocker on Simpson, excuse me. So down low through turn number 1, that 74 car going to try to get the job done, but no, to no avail just yet. He'll settle back in line. Now, something, of course, I talked about with the Indy in-car tools these drivers will be having and be working with. You see on the dash along the bottom line, you see some boxes there. They're all going to be on 0 on our end, but there's some things the drivers can play with. They have the front anti-roll bars, front and rear. Well, I guess the anti-roll bars front and rear. It'd be pretty weird if they had a front anti-roll bar on the rear of the car. And they also have what's called the weight jacker. I'll explain the anti-roll bars first. Anti-roll bars in Indy cars, they work like they do in anything else. There's literally just a bar across the front and rear of the car that controls weight transfer. That a blocker is going to get a good run here down this second straightaway in towards the tunnel turn. And the 74 car up the inside. Doesn't have the job done yet. That's going to be a little tight. Nearly contact between the two of them. That's going to make them have to get themselves back in line. So fighting a little bit tight might be Adam Blocker, but the anti-roll bars, you can adjust their stiffness, front and rear. You can soften or stiffen the front end, depending on what you want the front end to do. You can soften or stiffen the rear end, depending on what you want the rear end to do. You also have what's called the weight jacker. The weight jacker, it does not actually move a weight around in the car, but it actually, on the right rear, there's actually an actuator that when you push the button, moves it up and down. So when you move the weight jacker to the right, it actually jacks that right side of the car up into the air. And in essence, what you do is you put cross weight into your car. We'll loosen it up. If you go down or to the left on the button, it'll lower that right rear tire. Oh, that Randy Chinworth fan 69 says, wow, those cars go fast. That is a solid troll. As they work down the long front straightaway for the entire field once again, Christopher Demerit, who's showing some good pace and some good life after picking up the second spot, has pretty much rolled over and died, it would seem. Gap has grown back out to about 1.3 seconds. So the Team Chimera driver is Josh Chin, who had to fight a very tightly contested and entertaining race for the win during the iRacing Indy 500. He's currently strolling off into the distance with this one. Comes off turn 3 and down the front straightaway, logs a lap time of 42.808. Now, one of the things that these drivers will be keeping in mind of is their tire life, and what that actually will can consist of. So if you look right here, Josh Chin, best lap 42.079, his last lap with a 42.808. If I take a look, I don't think that lap, actually that lap may have been done in drafts, but I don't think it was significant enough to have been a huge issue. But the lap time, they're starting to fluctuate. Try to find, is it this one? No, it's not this one. Hold on. You think I would know how to use this thing by now, but the lap times are starting to fluctuate for these guys. Go up and down, and that's going to mostly be coming from the tires slowly going away. So as these guys do a run, the lap times will get slower and slower. As the tires get older and older, of course. Now, the handling is going to go away. The rear tires will go away. You might be fighting a loose conditions. The front tires could go away. Could be fighting a tight condition. Josh Chin maybe not loving the handling of his car, considering Demerit found 0.3 of a second that last trip around the racetrack. So maybe Chin not liking a long run speed of his car. However, with the limited fuel run, I will say this. These guys are going to be coming down pit road here pretty soon. 70% fuel tanks, working lap number 23 of 140. I'd be very surprised if people don't start coming down pit road before we get to lap 30. I have to wait and see here. Husky asked, do Indy cars typically run asymmetrical setups for ovals? The answer is yes. It's one of the very big things about oval car setup. It's not quite as... It's not as obvious as it is in NASCARs, and to a certain extent, but it is definitely a thing, and it is definitely there. The springs will be, you know, their right rear springs will be different from the left rear, will be different from the right front, be different from the left front. They are very much asymmetrical. It is important to note, though, that because they are single-seaters, they doesn't need as big of a value to get the same effect as you typically get in a stock car, because they're so aerodynamically dependent, and they're so small, they're so light. It doesn't take very much to get a big effect. But yes, the setups are asymmetric. That's actually part of what goes into really setting these cars up as well as you can, is building them as asymmetrically and as well, I don't want to say as asymmetrically as you can, but getting the setup dialed in and knowing how that works is a bit of a trick, especially when you combine that with the aerodynamics, which actually, that said, the aero with these cars a lot simpler than they were on the DW12. Even for the guys in the sim, you don't have nearly as much to play with. Basically just get front and rear wing angles, as opposed to in the old days you had, well, I don't want to say the old days, but a couple of the older cars, not the case. I believe Joshua Chin comes down pit road, and indeed he does. So let's take a look and see what our pit deltas are looking like. So Josh Chin takes him 22 seconds to get down to his pit box at the head of pit road, pulls in. Oh, and he actually missed the pit box. It was sort of hidden behind the Mustang safety car there. But if you just noticed on the right side, you saw that nose of that Team Camaro Indy car just poke out a little bit. 9 seconds is what it takes to get these cars filled up, 4 tires with fuel, and he rolls off 36.5 seconds, but he would have lost a little bit of speed there, and he might actually be in for a penalty coming up on the racetrack when he did. I'll have to take a look. Where is actually the commit line? I'm not sure if he crossed it. I'm going to cut back, and I want to watch this replay and ride on board with him, because I think he may have crossed that blue line, and if he did, he could be in for a bit of a nightmare. Let's see what happens. Of course, he rolls away. See that iRacing Mustang safety car. Not perfectly, here, let's see, he runs. Nope, he should be okay. So he should be good based on where that cone is. I believe that cone has moved since an event I worked. Christopher Demerit, you see him come off pit road. And let's see, does Josh end up keeping that race lead? It's going to be tight as Demerit gets on to turn 1 and gets that car spooling up. But no, Josh Chin's going to hold on to the race lead for now, and Demerit will have a slightly newer set of tires. And that 1 lap difference, at least for a very narrow window of time, will be quite significant. So for Christopher Demerit, as he tries to get these tires heated up, we'll have an advantage here on Josh because Josh made that mistake on pit road. So down the front straightaway they're going to come. And let's see, what's Demerit going to do here as he just tucks in behind the 1-point race leader of Joshua Chin, excuse me. A few drivers, though, have yet to come down pit road. Brendan Lichtenberg currently cycled into the lead of this race. Adam Blocker just came off of pit road, along with Brad Walters, Chad Simpson, Joe Branch, and John Downing. So Lichtenberg, the only driver to yet to come down pit road, and he's doing it right now. So a 27-lap stint for Brendan Lichtenberg, and you compare that to that 93 car of Joshua Chin, went 24 laps. So there is a 3-lap difference there. When you start doing the math just a little bit, roughly 25 laps for Josh, who went, 24. That means he's going to pit around lap 24, should pit around lap 48, should pit a lap 72, then once again around lap 96, and then he should be able to get from that next pit stop. He'll get to about lap 120. He should be able to get to the end. That extra few laps might just be able to give Lichtenberg a bit of an advantage and maybe cut a pit stop out of this event. So we're going to have to wait and see as Lichtenberg comes back up onto the racetrack. Actually, did he have... No, he had a pretty good pit stop. He just lost a lot more ground than I think I expected him to. He's only in the tunnel turn, whereas the race leaders are pretty far out in front. So down the front stretch once again, and in towards corners number 1. I almost said 1 and 2, but of course it is just turn 1, modeled after Trenton Speedway. Of course, the repave has sort of changed it just a little bit. Same with turn 2. Turn 2, excuse me, initially modeled over the corners at Indianapolis. I think it was turn 1 specifically they tried to emulate. The repave sort of keeps the spirit of it, but it is different than what it used to be. Then turn 3, designed after the Milwaukee Mile. And once again, the repave has sort of changed the way this corner is taken. Maybe not as much as the other two, but it is definitely a little bit different as we're working lap number 30 of 140. So 110 laps to go here as we're 20 minutes into this thing. So down Long Pond straightaway and in towards turn 2 for your race leaders, looking for fights up and down the field, and there really aren't any. This is what this race is going to be, I think, for the bulk of this. Might see some fights pick up at one point or another. Andres Eek and Ray Kingsbury are relatively close, 0.2 of a second gap here. But this deep in the pack, I don't think these guys are going to be fighting too hard. You also have Lichtenberg, who is now in the 16th position. He's going to be on a newer set of tires than the rest of the field, but only by a couple laps. So for now, for Lichtenberg, so what this 12 car is hoping for is that this race goes long. He's already shown that he can get some good fuel economy out of the car, better than most. That's definitely a nice ace to have up your sleeve, but it's not something that's good in the short run of a race. It's something that you need the race to go as long as you can under green flag conditions in order for it to pan out. See these guys work through turn 1. A little bit of a loose moment there, I think, from, I believe that's that Ray Kingsbury I saw down on the inside. Oh, he's actually hit the wall. So this is going to be a caution flag out. Let's see what has happened to the driver of the 25. Replay coming up on screen. So riding on board with him through the front straight and in towards turn 1. This is where he would have had the problem. Let's see what happens. He's here well off the throttle there. Just gets tight on the exit. That's the outside wall. Gets it just about saved, and I think he hit a bump or a seam there on the apron, and not much he could do there. That's pretty much going to be the end of his day. Get another look at that with the TV cameras. Well, you see through turn 1, if you listening during the onboard, you could definitely hear the fact that he was really modulating the throttle, fighting the driving conditions of that car. Gets it in the outside wall, and right there, I think between the car having damage, I think he just caught a little bit of bump, a little bit awkwardly, and not much he can really do at that point. So that is going to reset the field as we get one of these long Pocono cautions. And this is going to bring everyone down towards pit road. That was a long enough run for the entire field, even for Brendan Lichtenberg, who only ran about 4 laps on that tank of fuel and that set of tires. The fuel and tires are important enough that you're going to want to come down and fill up and get new ones. You have an unlimited set of tires in the sim, something I will say I actively wish they would change and fix. Having limited tire sets would be a huge thing, and you're going to see the entire field, I believe, come down pit road. We take, actually, you know what? Joe Branch and Tim Holgate, they're going to play the strategy card here and stay out. Do not have the pace, do these two. They have not been very quick or racy whatsoever, so they're going to opt to stay out. With who else stays out? I believe that's Brendan Lichtenberg, who actually came down pit road. So 3 drivers electing to stay out here. We should see Josh Chin come off pit road with his position pretty much held, and indeed he does. So this is gonna be the first time we see the Team Chimera driver cycle out really in towards dirty air. But we are gonna take a quick commercial break here. We will be back when we go back to green flag racing. Do not go away.
Once again, photo finish here of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Will it be Tim Hogan? It's going to be Christopher DeMerit at the line.
Welcome back here to RaceSpotTV as our first caution gets ready to come to an end, and Joe Branch is going to lead us to the green flag, followed by teammate Tim Holgate and Brendan Lichtenberg in third. Josh Chin, Chris DeMerit, Henry Bennett, Andrew Kinsella, Adam Blocker, Chris Stouffer, and Niall McBride round out the top 10 on this restart. Only driver currently scored out of the race is Ray Kingsbury, who brought out the caution. The green flag flies, and Joe's going to get on it. Tim Holgate tucks right underneath the rear wing of his teammate really early here, and let's see what Josh Chin can do now that he's gotten into some dirty air. Lichtenberg wants to go down to the bottom. They're going to fan out 3 wide for this race lead. Lichtenberg will take the point through turn number 1. Chin is up the inside of Tim Holgate already as they run down the Long Pond straightaway and off towards turn number 2. He's got that third spot taken away. Next in line will be Joe Branch. There will be Lichtenberg as Branch goes down to the low line to take this race lead away. Chin is trying to find the quick line. He knows it's out in front of Branch, who is not able to take the lead away from Brendan as they now work through turn 3. Chin already up into the second spot. Gonna run down the front straightaway here and tuck nicely under the rear wing of that Broken Arrow driver, Brendan Lichtenberg. You see cars fanning out in the back as well. In towards turn number 1 they come, and Josh Chin takes that race lead away, and he's immediately back to the point car way up the racetrack through the exit of turn 1. That was the one of Tim Holgate. Does a good job of holding on to it. They're going to fan out nearly 3 wide for this position in the run towards turn 2. The 14 of Kinsella wants to get froggy for these spots as well, but not going to get there. Nearly 3 wide again off the exit as these drivers who opted to stay out are falling like stones, with the exception of Brendan Lichtenberg. But for Joe Branch and Tim Holgate, they just do not have the raw pace to be able to stay up with this entire group. So, in towards turn one once again. You see the one of Tim Holgate way up there. 12 of Joe Branch trying to keep it down low. Kinsela's going to see and smell that weakness, going to try to make something happen, but the 14 car is just struggling just a little bit to have that sort of pace. Coming up on 100 laps to go here in this race this evening. So through turn 3, Joe Branch been able to give himself a little bit of breathing room here. Here comes Kinsella. As you see, a little bit of fighting here as well. That's now McBride putting the move on Tim Holgate. If I would have said that sentence in 2016, I probably would have slapped myself in the face. As they run now through turn number 1. You see Tim Holgate just continuing to struggle and fall back. Joe Branch doing a much better job here with the pace. He sort of equalized out around Chris DeMeritt. Maybe figured out how to run this track just a little bit. Now that he's gotten around some quicker traffic, seeing the lines they're running. The one of Tim Holgate, I don't know if he has damage or what. At one point, one of the most dominant drivers in IndyCar racing on the iRacing service, just since this new car has dropped, has been unable to really contend the same way we've seen historically. Referencing, I mean, he is 6th in this championship, but it's not the domination we would typically expect to see from him. Only 5 top 5s, 7 top 10s. Almost a full 150 points back from the championship lead. Not the sort of Tim Holgate performance you would ever expect. Out in front, it's a 1.1 second lead though for Josh Chen over the driver of Brendan Lichtenberg. So it's another Broken Arrow driver that settles into that second spot. Third place is another one of Christopher DeMeritt. One of them has pretty much held that second spot all race long. Joe Branch, Andrew Kinsella, now Adam Blocker, excuse me, all in a tight little pack here as they roll through turn 1. This is for 4th, 5th, and 6th on the racetrack. As we're working lap 40 of 140. I think I may have just heard a car maybe bump the wall a little bit. I certainly hope that wasn't one of our race leaders. I don't see any damage. But let's take a replay and let's actually just ride on board with these guys in succession as they come off turn number 1. I think I heard a scrape of a wall somewhere. If we tuck right here, we should be able to see. Because Josh pushes up the racetrack. Oh, he may have just barely gotten it. I want another peek at that to see if that was just a tight little scrape or if he really smacked it. I think he's good. That is sort of the way you want. You can sort of brush the wall like that and get away with it. But any more than that, you're going to be pushing your luck and have some damage. Just checking up on the chat here as there's things are starting to happen. Dust2 B-Side CarPlay says, my uncle introduced me to iRacing. He's a big fan of it. That's pretty cool, Dust2. What's your uncle's name? Maybe I've raced with him before. As Josh Chin works his way down the front straightaway, 2 seconds clear of his nearest competitor, and now make it 2.2 as that fight for the race lead has pretty much come to an end, and most of these fights pretty much have. Keeping track on our guys who did not come down pit road at the pit stop. Lichtenberg, of course, still settled into that second spot. Joe Branch in the 6th position, currently fighting with Niall McBride. Niall looks like he's going to pick this spot up as they run in towards second, or excuse me, the turn 2. Nope, take that back. Joe Branch angled that off pretty nicely. Tim Holgate, though, is just having a terrible run here today. Currently in 16th. Andres E gives me the next one in line. I don't know if he maybe has a bit of damage or what the deal is, but not going the way that Tim Holgate would ever like it to go. Some discussion about the temperatures in the chat. Ray saying it's a bit hotter than he expected it to be. That does make a pretty big difference on how you're actually going to approach and set the car up. You know, typically you might, you know, if it's a cooler race, you can maybe trim a little bit of air out of the car, It's a hotter race. You're probably going to put a lot of aero into it, so you're going to add front and rear wing angle to generate more grip. That is something that happens in real life. There's been years in the past where I believe it was somewhere in the mid-90s, the Penske's had a little bit of string where there's some hot Indy 500s. They just loved it because they just had so much power that being able to put the aero on meant they'd be able to essentially just outrun everybody. We also saw it in this year's Indy 500. Part of the reason I think the cars out in front were so dominant is that they knew they were going to have clean air pretty much the entire way through, so they didn't have nearly as much aero as the cars that were starting in the mid-pack. That's why we saw super late in the race, some cars just couldn't keep up with others. Didn't see the sort of draft packing that we would typically talk of, but there's definitely 100% a huge shift in how the car will drive from when you have cool weather to hot weather. It's like that on the road courses too. It's like that across the board for all the cars, but the Indy cars very much susceptible to it, especially at a place here like Pocono where you're consistently doing 218, 220 miles an hour through some of these corners. A little bit of grip differential goes a long way. So down the front straightaway for these guys once again, in towards turn one. Race lead out to nearly 3 seconds. Josh Chin absolutely dominating this event tonight. Currently working 46 of 140. I believe he's led about 37, 38 of those laps. I don't actually have the exact number in front of me, but of course there would have been the few laps during the caution he didn't lead, and there was a couple laps where him and Bennett swapped that race lead early. And let's talk about Henry Bennett. Started in second, at one point was fighting with your race leader for the race lead, and Bennett just has had nothing for the rest of the field ever since those early moments. Currently running in that 8th spot, currently stuck behind the likes of Chris Stouffer, Niall McBride, Adam Dock in the mix as well. He's got Joe Branch, a couple of cars out in front of him. Actually, he just got around Chris Stouffer. Still, the 007 car, just in the span of about a pit stop and some change, has gone from being up near the front of the field to being not so solidly in the mid-pack. I was going to say this out loud, but it's just more efficient if I type in the chat and then accidentally cue the music. Spoiler alert, Randy has his music hotkey set to the numpad, and sometimes he does dumb things like type numbers and forget that it's going to trigger the music if he hits a 1. So down the front straightaway once again for the whole field. Not a lot of close fights. Everything's really gotten, pretty much fanned out here. You see a little bit of side-by-side action here. This is Chad Simpson and Andrew Wood duking it out through turn number 1. Wood down on the bottom in that bright orange Dunkin' Donuts machine, the policeman's favorite. He's not going to be able to get that job done. You know what? Based on that sponsor, I'll put a question out to the fans that I want to see people getting active in the chat with. What is your favorite establishment from donuts? For donuts, I suppose, not from donuts. What is your favorite establishment? You Dunkin' Donuts person? Is there a little local chain? What's the name of it? Give them some love in the chat. I'm definitely a local chain person. We got Mary's Donuts here in East County, San Diego. Been a staple historically. Or maybe you're not even a donut shop person. Maybe you get like the Edelman's old-fashioned donuts. Those are pretty solid, I will say. Get a box of the 8 of those with the 2 of each. Go through those in about 20 minutes and question your life choices while you drive to the store to get another box. Oh, we got one car pulling off down towards pit road. Who was that? That was John Downing. So a bit of an interesting strategy here from John. This, I believe, is pretty early, and indeed it is. Lap 34 to lap 49, so we only ran about 15 laps here. Michele Constantini, of all the unhealthy things that have been invented in Italy to eat, you don't have donuts. And same with Belgium. So let me get this straight. Belgians are like, nah, bruh, waffles with like whipped cream are solid, but donuts are just too unhealthy. So through turn 1 though for the field, as I question your country's dietary choices. As they run down Long Pond, as we're currently looking at the 74 of Adam Blocker. A little bit of fight here actually between Niall McBride and Joe Branch. Joe Branch is going to lose that one out. Shuffles behind McBride and Henry Bennett. They take a swig of water. You likely hear the ice shuffling around. Pretty warm day here in SoCal. Been a really hot and humid summer, actually, just in general. As this fight between McBride, Bennett, and Branch just settles down. Some things are getting a little bit close up here. That's actually going to be Andrew Kinsella fighting with that car that came off pit road. So that's John Downing, who, keep in mind, has been pretty much in the back of the pack all day. On new tires, this is what new tires can allow you to do. He's now fighting amongst the race leaders and pretty much is running them down and opening that gap up. So this is why you will sometimes come down pit road and pretty much check out. It's the undercut strategy. You see another car doing it, one of the other Sadie cars. So it's going to be Adam Plunkett, the driver, who has to do that as well. And actually, Tim Holgate went for it also. Interesting strategy calls from these guys. I will say that I don't actually like the strategy call from any of them because they're just so far back in the pack. I don't think that undercutting really works out that much. They don't quite have the advantage. I'd love to see someone like Lichtenberg, Demerit, maybe even Kinsella do it. I mean, you're talking about Josh. He's 3 seconds clear of you. I mean, you can absolutely 100% know that he's not coming down pit road and be able to get yourself down to pit road if you're really, really observant and know what you're doing. And the likes of Brendan and Christopher, they are experienced enough to be able to pull something like that off. Joe Branch does come down pit road though. And he's about in that same little point. But seriously, I'm just like spent up on the fact that they don't have donuts in Italy. Granted, I do think Italian food is pretty generally overhyped, as Brendan Lichtenberg's going to come down pit road. Race leader Josh Chin is going to stay out. So Lichtenberg's going to go for the undercut, and I would suspect that Josh Chin will see this and likely respond right now. But back to my point about Italian foods. I mean, let's just think about this for a moment. People really hype up Italian food as really good. Every sort of Italian food is literally nothing more than some form of pasta, marinara sauce, cheese, and beef. And then sometimes maybe you'll put some veggies or chicken or whatnot in. That is literally 100% of Italian food. It's literally that and garlic bread. Prove me wrong. Change my mind. As Josh Chin runs through turn number 3 and actually does not come down pit road. That's a little surprising to me. Yeah, to your point, Husky, they're 100% taking tires. Now, they could be hitting a fuel number. That doesn't, you're not necessarily wrong, but they are going to be taking tires as well. I will contend, Husky, that pizza crust is a form of pasta. So through turn 3, Josh Chin still not coming down pit road. So this is actually going to work out in favor of Lichtenberg. So whenever we see Josh actually come down pit road, I believe the 12 car will, at least for a short time, have that race lead. How many laps does the tires hold? The tires can go for pretty much an entire run. Tires blowing out is technically a thing in the sim, but it takes a very, very, very long time to do it. And the amount of time it takes to actually blow a tire is longer than it takes to basically come down pit road and actually put fuel in the car. So you do not actually have enough fuel to wear the tires out enough for them to go. So you'd have to come down pit road, take fuel only, and not take tires, which is absolutely no point in doing. But yeah, 24 to 25 laps is pretty much what we're going to be expecting, as these guys work themselves to turn one once again. Not really a lot of fights out there on the racetrack. So we're going to have Hugo Luis's Nightmare, where Randy has a strung out race, is in charge of a broadcast, and has Mikhail Constantini in the chat. That is pretty dangerous. As Wood's going to go for it up the inside of Christopher. We've seen these guys swap their spots a couple times. Wood will take that position away for the moment, but I think Stouffer, as much as he's sort of tucked underneath that rear wing, going to roll through turn 3. Might get on. Actually, no, he didn't really do a very good job of getting himself any clean air. Just lost a lot of time to Wood there. All right, here's the second pizza debate. Ray says that New York pizza is where it's at, though. I have no strong opinion on New York pizza one way or the other. But here is the real talking point. Is Chicago-style pizza actually pizza? Josh Chin actually did come down pit road, so he's going to get himself shuffled back out there. That means Demerit will cycle into the race lead. Demerit is now going to come down pit road along with literally everyone else, I think. So, and actually, wow, Brendan Lichtenberg actually did not get into the race lead. I thought he would have been close enough with that short stint to maybe be able to make something happen, but no, it's not the case. AJ, I'm going to decline Mikhail's request simply because I want the freedom to be able to rant about how terrible Italian food is without having an Italian in the booth to argue with me. So Lichtenberg gets shuffled back into the second spot, and he should be able to hold that. Demerit's coming off pit road in third. I don't see anyone else really that's, I think, going to contend with them. So this should be our top two. They are pretty close. The thing is, though, that with the two different strategies, Lichtenberg's tires are already going to be pretty worn out. I won't say super worn out. They're about 5 laps old, though, which there is, you know, if you're, I know there's a few guys watching that aren't IndyCar aficionados. 5 laps on an oval may not sound like a lot, but just that little bit of temperature getting in the tires can sort of take that ultimate pace out of it. It drops you maybe a tenth or two. Or in the case of Indy 500 qualifying, it makes the car from planted to the ground to spinning off of turn 4 on your 4th lap. But there's a very significant difference there. We do actually have a caution on the racetrack. This was Tim Holgate, who was stopped near the pit exit. What happened to the one? So he's coming down the front straightaway here. And let's see, he just sort of quits. So interesting. Maybe some issues there for Tim. None of Holgate's teammates were, you know, whenever something like that happens, you always have to, you know, there's questions always start fluttering around. None of Tim's teammates. Oh wait, hold on, we got someone with big damage. Oh no, never mind. That was Bradley Walters. That happened like 30 laps ago. Not exactly sure what happened there. None of his teammates were really in a position to benefit from a caution, so I don't think there's any foul play. And knowing Tim, Tim wouldn't do something like that. Honestly, my first inkling is that something might be wrong for Tim personally. He just had to get up from the sim, so hopefully there's no problems there, especially for the fact that he just drove past pit road. Hopefully everything's all right there. But we're gonna have to wait and see. But regardless, lap 62. Someone's going to have to come down pit road. I'm not sure if it was technical issues. It didn't seem like it was technical issues. but it very well could be. But we'll have to wait and see. However, entire field should be coming down pit road. Never mind, Brendan Lichtenberg is just, okay, never mind. Everyone's going to do strategies that just don't make any sense. So Christopher Damaris going to stay out. Lichtenberg's going to stay out. Kinsella, Adam Blocker. Who else? Is that it? There's another car out there. Henry Bennett is trying to get, let's see, Chopper Cam 3. Thanks to Istvan Ballo. So now that everyone cycles through, is there anyone I missed? Stouffer stays out. Blocker, Kinsella, Demerit. Yep, okay. So pretty much the full list. Let's see, does Chin come off pit road first? Looks like it. So, some interesting strategy here. Handful of cars opting to stay out for unexplained reasons. The rest of the field coming down pit road as you'd expect at this point. We are going to step aside for the second time here. So while Mikkel continues to be super triggered about Italian food being overrated, we'll be back in a couple moments.
Kyle Kimball. I am the Manager of Operations in the Motorsports Department for Mazda North American Operations. We are at Bondurant Racing School here in Phoenix, Arizona, and we are putting on the Mazda Road to 24 shootout. We started with 14 qualifiers that submitted business plans to us, and from those 14, we narrowed it down to 4. Those qualifiers were Celine Roland, Tyler Casera, John Allen, and Preston Pardis.
For me, the first session was just, the memorization piece of the track. I probably was halfway through the session before I felt like there were 2 or 3 places I could push. Now I knew what was next. I already see some differences in preference of, how people approach certain turns, or certainly the braking into the first chicane is a little bumpy. So there's a lot to learn, but that's part of the fun.
Shout outs to our 7-minute long Mazda Road to 24 advertisement that I know I can run at any time I need to get another water, and that the commercial will not end while I'm away. Green flag back in the air as Brendan Lichtenberg leads the way in the second race of the Husingfeld Triple Crown of the Indy Elite Series as they scream off in towards turn number 1. Handful of drivers staying out. The first driver to come down pit road and get new tires has been race dominator, the 93 of Joshua Chin. So he's going to be the one to watch. And he's got new tires, but he's now tucked as deep into the field as we've seen him now, 7 cars deep. Well, 8 cars deep as he runs an 8th versus just 1 or 2. Lichtenberg, though, loses the race lead to teammate Christopher Demerit as they run now through turn number 3. Christian Steele is now checking into the chat, which means that this is about to get heated up. Christian, we're having in-depth conversations about food as the fight is on for second. Brendan Lichtenberg, who led us to green here, is fighting now with Andrew Kinsella for this second spot. Up top is going to be Lichtenberg, down to the bottom, and Kinsella gets sort of stuck down there. So actually, I think with the weather, the lines are a little different than you'd expect to see. It's almost like running Gateway here, which is one of the tracks I'm a little bit more experienced on in this car. It seems like the upper groove is where you tend to want to be. But through turn 3, you see more fighting as well behind Christopher and Henry Bennett. Bennett tucked right underneath the rear wing there of Christopher as they scream down this front straightaway and in towards turn number 1. Neither of them going to be able to go for it though, so Bennett not having, maybe running a little bit more aero than some of these guys. As Josh Chin, I think he knows that he's in a pretty solid position here, so he's not being really aggressive with this traffic just yet. I think he knows he doesn't need to be, just not even at halfway yet. Few laps off halfway. He's got new tires. He's got more fuel on board. He has no reason whatsoever to get super aggressive and be like, I need to get through this traffic now. In theory, the strategy in the long run will favor this number 93 Chimera car. So all he has to do is kind of just cruise control it. Fight for second is on though. Kinsella not going into cruise control mode. He takes the second spot away from Brendan Lichtenberg. Can Adam Blocker follow that train through and get himself up into P3? He's going to try. Lichtenberg has been struggling a little bit today, so maybe this 74 car can make something happen, but no, sort of backs out of it on the run in towards turn 2. I'll be honest, Husky, there's not very much Belgian food in San Diego. They're actually going to go 3 wide. Race leader, at one point, race leader Josh Chin with, I believe that was, no, it was Henry Bennett and Christopher. So a bit of a 3 wide moment there coming off turn 3. Chin kind of backed out of it. They all sort of did. Now Josh is going to show the nose on Henry Bennett. Going to try to pick that spot up. But nope, Bennett's going to take it because Josh was technically ahead of him at the stripe. Now down the inside goes Josh Chin on Henry Bennett. He's going to pick that spot up easy. Christopher, the next one in line. So now that these guys were on old tires starting to get some heat back into them. Speed is just going away. So down the front stretch in towards turn 1 once again. 93 of Josh Chin. Trying to continue working through the field. Brendan Lichtenberg is still fighting with the 74 of Adam Blocker. Kinsella is able to pick that spot up and run away. Blocker yet to be able to do the same. Gets a run down Long Pond on the run towards turn 2. Works through the center of the corner. Going to try to push Lichtenberg up the racetrack, but Lichtenberg not going to budge too much. Going to stay side by side in towards turn 3. As meanwhile behind, Josh Chin is putting the moves on Christopher. He wants to get himself up a spot. Has that job mostly done, but no slipstream on that low line means he's just going to get freight trained. Now Lichtenberg in front of him is going to duck down to the low line, so that'll give Chin a little bit of draft through turn 1 though. The new tires should be advantage Mr. Team Talent, and he's got the spot for a moment, but they're still side by side in front. Chin has a run, is not going to duck out and make it 3 wide. Stouffer stays in line. They're 2 by 2 by 2 here in this little scrap. Very close between Lichtenberg and Blocker. I think they actually may have made contact as they swap positions on the racetrack. And through turn 3, we're officially halfway. 70 laps, 71 laps scored complete, 69 to go. As Josh Chin still yet to be able to find much way through these guys. Sort of a nightmare situation. They're going to go 3 wide in front of it. Blocker way up the racetrack is going to have to lift out of it. That should give Chin that position, and indeed it does. So now down in towards the next straightaway. Chin's going to make it 3 wide in towards turn 2, and he's going to pick that spot up. That's the advantage that new tires can give you. So Josh Chin is now through most of this traffic. Only a couple cars out in front of him now as he just went from 6th to 3rd on that lap. And you can already see, even with the clean air, he's just stretching this gap out. He's already stretched about 10 car lengths just before they even get to turn 1, and that's with them having the draft. Oh, very close to the wall for Josh Chin. Replay coming up here. As good of a night as he's having, this is not the sort of moment that you want to end up having yourself. Nightmare situation for Josh. You're going to see it as he comes off turn 1. So he's got clean air for the first time in a while. Car's going to feel a little bit looser than it typically was. You see him dialing the steering out of that car and just try and hold on to it. He did make a little bit of contact with the wall, I think. But boy, oh boy, that was close for Josh. And that would have been heartbreak to be able to get through all that traffic clean and then just make a little mistake like that and plow the wall all by himself off of turn number 1. As the wheel that has been popping out of my office chair has just popped out of my office chair mid-broadcast, so we're going to have to do a repair for that while on air here in a moment. Otherwise, I have this wobbly, weird thing to sit on. So props to that. Yes, Husky, that's a bit of a team joke. Team Chimera is, I am technically teammates of Josh. Hence my bias for him winning races I broadcast. But that's been a couple-year joke now, as Christopher Demerit currently leads the way. 2.8 seconds out in front of Josh Chin, and now we, obviously just looking at the lap times, thinking about the tires, there's a 42.636 for Demerit last time through, 42.417 for Josh Chin. Let's see what this lap is. So Demerit's going to cross the stripe 6.32, and Chin crosses the stripe at a 4.44. So Chin is closing the gap on these guys by about 0.2 a lap. Actually, it's even more so for Kinsella, because Kinsella is about 0.2 off Demerit's pace right now. So Chin will quickly get to that number 14 car and waste absolutely no time. So with that, let's do a little bit of a broadcast pit stop and live play-by-play as I unbrake my chair, tip it over, find the wheel, put it into its slot, give it a good knock, put it back down. We're good to go. Picked up the phone that fell on the ground in the process. And that right there is proof, if you ever need one, about how quickly I can do a tire change. Fight for the race lead, still a second. Couple tight fights up and down the field. You have Blocker, Bennett, and Wood, all within about a second of one another. Another close fight, Brendan Lichtenberg and John Downing. See Downing get a little bit of a wiggle. Look, Brendan not having the great luck here. Sort of been an up and down race for him. Started up near the front of the field, and then he fell down a couple spots, and he got back near the front. Now luck just swinging back, not in his favor. Currently fighting with John Downing and Joe Branch. Downing just got the best of him, but Lichtenberg's not going to give up that easy. We'll certainly try and make something of this. Picks the spot back up. Now Joe Branch maybe smells some blood in the water. Wants to get around that Sadie car, but no dice just yet. So, down the front stretch once again. For most of your field. Race leader still out in front. Demerit 42.7 last time. Chin a 42.6. So the pace is starting to even out a little bit. I will say this though, for that 993 Team Chimera car, someone who knows Josh is someone who's constantly thinking about things like fuel economy, and stretching things very, very late in the run. It's one of his strong points on the road course is not just in the Indy cars, but in anything. It's one of the things that makes him a really good endurance race is the fact that he typically can get very, very good fuel economy. So Josh might know that he's sort of in a situation that because Demerit didn't come down pit road last time, that Josh can essentially just sit here and out fuel mileage him. So maybe saving a little bit of fuel is that 93 car. I think he should have a bigger pace advantage than he does, especially with the way that he's reeling in Kinsella. You know what? We haven't done one of these just yet, so let's do one. We'll do a little bit of RaceSpotTV fan immersion, and we will ride on board with the number 93 of Josh Chin. So we're going to come to a close on the fan immersion, but I still want to ride on board here with Josh just to point out how aggressively he's racing some of these lines, especially through turn 2 and 3. See one driver come off pit road in front of him. That might change things up. You see both drivers, him and Kinsella, sort of run that second groove through turn 1. Kinsella trying to get the draft off that driver that just came off pit road, who I believe might be Joe Branch. In towards turn 2, Josh has been just clipping the apron here. Doesn't do it this time, and Kinsella gets sort of hung up by that lap car. This might allow Josh actually get a nice little run here. In through turn 3, he's been putting those left side tires traditionally on that curve, not able to do it that time. Sort of had to arc the corner just a little bit awkwardly. So down the front stretch once again, Josh is going to take a peek up the inside of Andrew Kinsella. Through turn number 1, is he going to get that move done? He's going to try to chop the nose off and not quite able to get there. But this is what I was talking about, and I think Josh will likely have to do it again. Watch when he turns in. He's just been clipping the apron here, which is just helping the car rotate. Actually doesn't do it. Pushes up the racetrack, and he's going to get that job done. So move Kinsella back into the 3rd spot. Move Josh into P number 2 as Demerit has himself a nice little 3-second lead, but he's going to have to come down pit road right now. Pierre Bourdon asks if trees grow in iRacing, and the answer, Pierre, is yes. Every time you win a race, they grow an inch. Hence why they seem to grow very, very slowly. As these guys work themselves down Long Pond once again, now that fuel strategy is coming into play, things are going to get very, very awkward Because in essence, and this is why I don't really, it doesn't make much sense why so many of those guys chose to stay out at that last pit stop, is that it's a very short run from the last time you would have come down pit road. So for Christopher Demeritte, who stayed out, I don't think he really gained much. Josh just made things very, very tight on the entry to pit road. And I think he may have sped. We're going to have to wait and see. You see him using that sort of apron like I was talking about, like, oh, I'm just going to drift the car at 200 some odd miles an hour. So let's see, coming off turn 3, elects to come down pit road. Yeah, oh my God. If he got it slowed down, it was very, very close. Pit stop time deems that he did not get penalized. Josh left nothing on the road there. Pierre, you know I'm joking, buddy. And you can sell it, rest of the field coming down pit road. Bennett currently cycles back out on the race lead as we're approaching 50 some odd laps to go. Let's see, where is Josh cycled back out? Demeritte's out in front of him, actually by about 6 seconds. Demeritte had a really nifty little pit cycle here. Josh might be in the sort of midst of throwing a race away here, as Demeritte is out just pretty much clear ahead of Josh Chin. I'm always dead serious here. I've never once been sarcastic ever, as Josh works down the front straightaway, coming towards 50 to go. Joe Branch has cycled into the race lead. With all these different strategies going, it is honestly a little bit confusing trying to keep up of who's where and what the actual fuel situation looks like. I still feel like the Demeritte and Chin should have the advantage, as Branch and Downing and most of the rest of the field comes down pit road. I believe Chad Simpson is the only one who still owes us a pit stop. And as I take a look through, yeah, last time he was down pit road would have been at the caution. So LLM driver, the only one left. And Kinsilla's actually come out ahead of Josh Chin as well. So maybe a little bit of short fill here. Let's actually take a peek at the pit stop times. 8.8 seconds for Kinsilla, 9.2 for Chin, and 8.9 for Demeritte. So no real short fills. Josh was just really bad on pit road. 3 seconds is what he dropped on his trip down pit road. 38 seconds compared to about 35 for both Kinsilla and Demeritte, who are roughly even with one another. So, Chin's definitely going to be a little bit tilted with himself for sure, as Chad Simpson actually stays out and goes another lap here. And this might be relevant for him if he can actually sort of maintain this fuel economy to the end of the race. Might be able to cut off a pit stop here and make something happen. I don't think he'll be in it for the win, but maybe pick up some spots, guarantee himself a couple of extra positions as he comes down pit road. That'll give Chris Demeritte the race lead when he eventually cycles through. He heads in towards turn 3. Kinsilla and Chin about 5 and 6 seconds back. So absolutely crazy the way this race has gone. 30 laps ago, I think everyone pretty much would have picked Josh Chin as pretty much the clear winner, the way he was sort of running away with it. But a couple caution cycles just have really sort of swapped this up. Demeritte got a lot more speed out of that car than I think a lot of people expected on that last run on the slightly old, used and older tires. So Chen still trying to reel in that number 14 car. As they head down the front stretch, as I just accidentally click on one of the cars on pit road, Josh is going to get a run in towards turn 1. Looks down the inside of Kinsella, and he's going to have that move done as they work through that first corner. Let's see what this driver can do down this front straightaway of Kinsella. Going to tuck nicely into the wake of that Team Chimera machine. Nothing going just yet. And through turn number 3, still nothing going. And actually, you know what? You see Josh already stretching that gap out. So this is going to be advantage Mr. Josh Chin, I think, on this one. Gap's already out to about half a second. And Kinsella looked like he was really struggling in the dirty air, especially through turn 3. I am curious, though, if Josh is going to run his YOLO line through turn 2 again. I really want to see if he does it, because this is just, like, mind-boggling to me that he's even able to do this. Turns into turn 1. Nope, not that time. Maybe it's something he sort of does when he's in dirty air. Have to wait and see if that happens. Really keep track of it. But right now, doesn't look likely. As the nearest contender he has out in front of him, they switch for Demerit. A nice, cool 5.7 second lead for Demerit, coming up towards 40 laps to go. 1 pit stop left. Can't really ask for more, too much more this late in a race like this. So, Demerit to log another lap led here. Of course, there is still some strategy at play. Demerit came down pit road a little bit earlier than the rest of the field. He, last time down pit road, in lap number 85. You compare that to Josh Chin. In lap number 86, only a 1 lap difference, and I think that might be part of the problem with Josh. As you know, Josh may have somewhat been a victim of circumstance here. With Demerit coming down pit road, in lap number 59, came out on lap 60, ran lap number 61, and then the very next lap a caution flew. Compare that to Josh Chin, who came down on lap number 58, out lap on 59, then he ran a couple laps, so he sort of had to come down pit road there, where Demerit sort of had the freedom to stay out if he so chose. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Because even though Demerit, I mean, it's only a 1 or 2 lap advantage that Josh has at the most on fuel. So really, I honestly think the 93 needs a caution. Otherwise, I don't think there's any way he reels in a 5-second gap to Demerit. Either that or Demerit needs to do one of his classic reverse down pit road calls. Also think that some other drivers may be having the fuel to 1-stop it, thanks to some insider info from Mr. Kingsbury. Chad Simpson just came down pit road on lap number 91. So 20 some odd laps, that should put him around, lap 120? So he actually, yeah, Chad Simpson should be able to 1-stop this. So maybe someone else in the mix as well could pull off a win who we've not really looked at just yet. Josh has been cycling quicker on the racetrack than Chris Demerit, but not by enough. A few hundredths a lap at most, which when you're talking about a 6-second lead with 50 laps to go is absolutely nothing. And I will say, if you're the likes of Chris Demerit, Josh Chin, everyone else from here on out, really think you only have one strategy, and that's to burn this fuel as long as you can. Especially if you maybe have a spotter who thinks and is picked up that maybe some of those guys can 1-stop this race. You want to stay out on the racetrack as long as you can in case you can catch a caution. Now sometimes that'll backfire on you, but not much you can really do. Close fights up and down the field. Excuse me, Richard Holt and John Downing within a second of one another as I just casually get the hiccups coming to 40 to go. A couple of other cars sort of in this train as well. Adam Dock, Chad Simpson, Adam Plunkett. Chad, of course, one of the drivers are really looking at potentially of one-stopping this. Andres Eek is, of course, another one. He came down pit road a little bit earlier than Chad did, though. So for Chad Simpson, as I just clicked on the wrong person. Yeah, so for Chad Simpson, as we look at his in-lap, he came down pit road lap number 91. You compare that to Andres. Andres came down on lap number 89, and he has much worse track position than Chad does. He's about 13 seconds back from Chad Simpson, so it's not looking great for him. Even if he can one stop from here, maybe pulls off the top 5, but between the two of them, Chad has definitely got is the favorite. 42.7 for Demerit that trip around the racetrack. 42.9 for Josh. Considering Josh's tires are newer, I'm going to go out on a limb and say Josh is saving as much fuel as humanly possible. Kinsella at 42.9 as well. Demerit's going to cruise down the front straightaway here. Let's see what this lap time is. He checks up a little bit, goes to a 42.81. Chin's going to go to a 42.89. And a 43.0 for Kinsella, which is going to be probably about your average pace up and down the field. Henry Bennett goes to 42.8. Now let's take a look. What is what is Chad Simpson doing? 43.3, so about a half-second difference there for Simpson. Andres Eek is running in the mid to high 43s as well, so the strategy is definitely on there. That half-second can make a pretty big difference for these guys. But when are they going to come down pit road is going to be the question. Demerit still owes us, I think, about 6 or 7 laps here. Came in, like I said, lap number 85, currently working 102. So actually closer to 8 to 10 laps. So it'll be about lap 112. Let me just sort of double check that number. Find a bit of a long run here. 25 laps is what Demerit did on his opening stint. And he was out near the head of the field, if memory serves. Yeah, he started third. He would have had a little bit of draft, though, so about 25 laps. If we applied that number to this one, came out on lap number 86, he'd be coming down on lap 111-ish. So 1.9, 110, 111 is sort of what we're looking at, I believe. And if that's the case, he cannot do it on a single stop here. Go to Josh Chin, who pit a little bit later, came down on lap 86. Fuel mileage has been roughly equivalent. He came down on lap 24. Josh is not in a good spot here at all. There's no other way to say it. Demerit has got a 6-second lead and a fuel advantage over the 93. So that's a bit of a disaster for the Team Chimera driver. I think Josh is really racing for second, maybe even third here. Kinsella's pretty much the same boat. Came down pit road at about the same time. Lap number 87, that should run him out to about 112. And he's probably going to be about 3 laps short unless they can make something of this here. So closing stages here in the Housingville Triple Crown second segment race. Of course, like we said, Austin Espetit was the driver coming in who could have potentially won the Triple Crown. And as he didn't show up, that means there will not be a Triple Crown champion this season. You could maybe, well, there might be a champion if you make the argument that someone could win 2 of the 3, but of course, when you talk about the Triple Crown, it's always talking about winning 3 out of 3. Now, here's the question I have, is that if you know that you cannot make it on fuel, the pit window opens basically right now, this coming lap. I'm curious if you're, say, Josh Chin, Chris Demerit, Andrew Kinsella, is it you may be better off just coming down pit road and short stinting, getting new tires as early as you can, and then just going as hard as you can to the end of the race, rather than sitting around and waiting. That might definitely be the case, as the wheels just popped out of my office chair frustratingly once again. Yeah, I definitely picked that up, Ray. The problem is that Eek is just so much further down the field than Chad is. It's a 14-second delta between Andres and Chad. And I think that 14 seconds is going to be really relevant, because if these guys have to do an extra pit stop, they're only going to be doing a very, very short fill. They're not going to be taking the full trip down pit road. Well, they'll be taking the trip down pit road, but they won't be taking a full 9-second pit stop. It'll only probably be a couple seconds if they even take tires. But that said, it'll still be, but so maybe not. Maybe that number is still, who knows? We'll have to wait and see. As Demerit's going to go past the pit entry once again. Josh Chin doesn't look keen on coming down pit road, as he's very close to the wall off turn 3. Same with Andrew Kinsella. Stouffer stays out. Bennett, Wood, McBride, Lichtenberg, Branch. Pretty much the whole field cycles right past that pit entry. So lap 114, if you're just joining us, 140 lap race. It's been pretty calm, just a couple cautions. Things are spread out, but it's a bit of a fuel economy race. The 93 of Josh Chin dominated this one, but I think either a lack of not getting the adjustments right on pit road or not coming down pit road when he needed to has sort of dropped him back 6 seconds off the current leader, Chris Demerit. However, neither of them are really the favorites. If it goes green to the end, this man right here is sort of the one we might be sort of plotting as a potential favorite to win this, because he seems to be the only one who can get to the end here on a single pit stop. We have a blinker, and it's going to be Richard Holt. So Richard can't make it. That's a 31 lap run to the end. Longest we've seen anyone go is about 26, 27 laps. So unless he puts that into ultra fuel save mode, he's not getting the end of this race. 31 laps to go for Christopher Demerit. He's 4 laps shy of hitting the mark and hitting the delta. Can he potentially do it? Josh Chin stays out on the racetrack. Same with Andrew Kinsella. So right now, for Chad Simpson, it is very, very close. Not necessarily on him, but on whether or not his competition can get there. And we're going to find out in about the next 90 seconds of if they can or not. Again, lap 114 is about where you want to be. Maybe lap 113 if you can really stretch it. Any more than that in clean air, you can't do it. Christopher Demerit comes down pit road. He can't make it. He'll have to make it splash and dash. Josh Chin through turn 3, dealing with the 12 of Brennan Lichtenberg. He's going to stay out, as well as the 14 of Andrew Kinsella. So the 93 cycles back into the race lead. Still going to be about 2 or 3 laps short if he ends up coming down this lap. But I'd say if you haven't come down pit road, if you didn't pit with Demerit, I would say the 93 and the 14 car are keen on getting themselves to that number. Through turn 3 for Chin. Clips the grass. Actually, no, I take it back. Josh Chin has to come down pit road, so he's not going to be able to make it to the end. Kinsella, though, stays out an extra lap. So now he's got 28 laps he can potentially run. I think Kinsella might just be an outdoor possibility of being able to hit this number. Look at some of the initial runs he was doing, 25 laps early. And when did he last come down pit road? Lap number 88. So let's see, just doing some calculations. Lap 114, maybe 115 if Kinsella's been saving gas, which I'm pretty sure he has been. His in-lap was lap number 87. 25 laps will put his in-lap right here, right now, and he's going to come down pit road. So he needs to find 3 to 4 laps. Stouffer is in. Bennett stays out. When did Bennett come down pit road? Lap number 88. That means, in theory, if it's 25 laps, he should be coming down this time. Let's see, who else do we got? Andrew Wood is cycled in behind Henry Bennett, and I think has sat there for a while. He also came down pit road on lap number 87, so Wood is getting good fuel mileage. He's already got a lap longer than a couple of your leaders, the likes of Chin, Kinsella, and Demerit. Let's see what these two do as they come off turn 3. Wood comes down pit road. Bennett stays out. So Bennett is going to be roughly on the mark if he can get there. I think he needs to get one more lap out of this. Let's see, who else do we got? Joe Branch comes down pit road. He can't make it. Christopher, he stays out. Chad Simpson, of course, stays out. Who else we got? Downing stays out. Plunkett stays out. Doc. And Andre Seek, of course, is yet to come out, but as we were talking about with the lap time differential and the fact that he was 14 seconds down the road, he's not quite there with the race leaders. So Bennett, this dark green car, 007, Club UKNI emblazoned on the side is the question mark. He's going to pit, I think, one lap early from being safe. 26 laps is what Bennett's going to have to stretch out. What did he just do? He came down pit road on lap number 88, came out on what was technically lap number 89. Bennett is questionable. He's right on the outer brink of potentially doing it. Other cars on pit road. Adam Plunkett's on pit road right here, right now. He came down on lap number 89, though, so he actually pit a lap later. He, I don't think, has the fuel mileage to really do it from here, although it's going to be tight. So now it's Chad Simpson who cycles into the race lead. And I think if you're Chad Simpson, you need to come down pit road this time. You know you had the fuel economy. See, this I think is a mistake. He's within 25 laps. There's no reason of him not coming down pit road right here. Maybe he wants the extra lap as safety net. But I think you need to come down pit road as early as you can and get new tires as early as you can. So one driver come off pit road just out ahead of him. That's Adam Dock. In that number 31 car. Simpson is currently the race leader. So through turn 3, will Chad Simpson come down pit road? No, not yet. And I still think this is a mistake. I don't think there's any reason for Chad Simpson to have not come down pit road yet. He has a fuel load advantage over the bulk of the field. The only thing he doesn't have right now is a tire advantage. Everyone out there on the field is on new tires. So Christopher Demerit, for example, is running a second per lap quicker than Chad Simpson. Same with the likes of Kinsella, Chin, Downing, Lichtenberg. Up and down the field, a half second to a second quicker. The 42 car, he can run to the end from here. There's no reason that he can't. He just needs to come down pit road, get the rubber, and equalize the pace and go as fast as he can. Through turn 3, he needs to come down pit road right here, right now. That's exactly what he's going to do. So the next closest competitor is Henry Bennett in the 007, and Henry is saving fuel. 43.166, his first hot lap out there after that pit stop. Let's see what happens here. Through turn 3, running the ultra high groove. Then down the front straightaway, what is this lap going to be? 44.287. So Henry Bennett, I think right now is the favorite. As where is Chad Simpson? Chad Simpson is just coming off pit road, so this is going to be really interesting. As Chad's going to come out. And this is what I was talking about. Bennett, the last 2 laps, has been saving gas. If Simpson had pit a lap or 2 earlier where he still would have been able to make it to the end, he would have already been reeling in this gap on the 007 to his maximum ability with new tires, with everything. Now he's just taken a couple of laps off his potential advantage of reeling this gap down to Bennett. Plus, how long does Bennett have to do this? I doubt he'll have to save this hard for the entirety of the stint. It seems like he's trying to make it all up and as quickly as he possibly can, as we have 21 laps to go. The other problem that Chad Simpson has is that now he has cars in between himself and Henry Bennett. So he has Joe Branch and Richard Holt he has to pass. It's a 4-second gap to the 28 of Joe Branch. And then it's about another second up the road to Holt. And then you get to the 007 of Bennett. Meanwhile, out in front, it's still Demerit who leads, who's going as quick as he can, doing mid-42s. Kinsella, same story. Josh Chin, well, he's doing mid-43, so Chin is in fuel save mode right now, 100%. Is it going to be enough, though? I'm not sure. For reference, at his last pit stop, these were his lap times after the first handful of laps after he came down pit road. 42.2, 42.5, 42.4, 42.2, 42.8. Compare that to now, 42.7, 42.7, 42.5, 42.7, 43, 43, 43. Chin is saving fuel really, really hard right now. So he might be thinking that he can potentially backdoor this and somehow make it to the end as well, too. That said, it's still going to be close to the 44.9 for Bennett last time. Now he has some drafting help, though. So he'll be able to pick up the pace while still saving fuel. 43.5 for him. But Chad Simpson is bringing the gap down. The differential between Bennett and Chad Simpson, 2 seconds on the racetrack. Oh, and Bennett gets into the wall. Bennett letting Joe Branch through, gets into that outside wall, and I think he has damage, a lot of damage on that right-hand side pod, and that's not only going to affect the pace of that 007 car, it'll affect the drag, and Chad Simpson has already gotten that spot done, and Henry Bennett is still well off the mark, doing 176 miles an hour. Bennett's race is effectively over. Replay coming up on your screens now. As we'll ride on board here, rewind it back just a bit further. We'll start on board here with Joe Branch just behind. You see him in this black Havoline machine. Running through turn one, you hear Joe really lift out of it. Bennett gets way up into the upper groove. Gets out of the dirty air. Oh, and Bennett initially actually got the wall there. I didn't realize that. He gets the wall coming off turn one. And I think Joe kind of scared them. He shows the nose, and Bennett, I think, likely just looking for Joe Branch on the left side, makes contact with that safer barrier again on the right-hand side, and that's going to be the end to Henry Bennett's hopes and dreams for this race. Only drivers left to either disappoint themselves or maybe steal a victory are these guys out in front. Demerit has not relented on his pace. Mid-42s, still the mark. Andrew Kinsella has slowed down a little bit, high 42s, but it's yet to dip into the 43s. And we got a caution, and this is going to change everything. Trying to see who it is on the racetrack. Bringing out the safety car. I'm going to have to refer to my, looks like it may have been Niall. No, it wasn't Niall. Adam Dock. Adam Dock is stopped on the exit of turn one. What happened here? Did he just have a motor let go? What in the world? So we're going to ride on board with Adam because something just happened through turn one. So let's see what we have here. He rolls through turn one. And he just plows the wall in clean air. Really weird mistake there from Doc, as experienced as he is, to plow the outside retaining wall of turn one with and completely clean air like that is really, really odd. Plunkett was technically in front of him, but I don't think enough to ever really make that much of a difference in terms of dirty air. Regardless, we got ourselves a caution here with about 17 laps to go. So now here's the question. Those drivers who are out in front, the likes of Demerit, Kinsella, can they save enough and even be able to make it? That's going to be interesting to see. Demerit's still out in front. Kinsella's got a handful of lap cars between him and Demerit. Interesting to see who all comes down pit road here. Because I'll be honest, there's really no point in not coming down pit road unless you're super worried about track position. 15 laps to go. Let's see who stays out. Most of your race leaders are going to come down for tires. I think that's basically going to be what the entire field does. See, everyone comes down pit road except those who need to take the wave around. There's only a few of those cars that need to do that, but none of those drivers are on the lead lap. So with that, let's see what happens. Can Demerit keep his race lead here on pit road? Gets into his box mistake-free. Chin has made a couple mistakes here tonight on pit road. Does not this time. Might have a fuel advantage here because he was saving so hard. He might come out in the second spot, and indeed that's exactly what happens. He jumps to 14 of Kinsella, and that is going to be massively important on the restart of this race. Chad Simpson is likely going to be really bummed. I think he had this race won. I'm not 100% sure Josh Chin could have gotten to the end from there. But regardless, he gets bailed out by a yellow. That said, we're going to take one last ad break here on RaceSpotTV. Do not go away. We will be right back. The Indy Elite Series second stretch of their Husingfield Triple Crown is about to come to an end, and it's going to do so in dramatic fashion. It was a fuel economy race up until a caution brought out just a couple of laps ago. Now it is a Sunday night shootout. It's Christopher Demerit is going to lead them to the green flag with the 93 of Josh Chin, his hot pursuit, along with Andrew Kinsella, Brendan Lichtenberg, and Andrew Wood, your top six, as they scream into turn number 1 with 12 laps to go. So through turn number 1, things don't get too froggy for the race leaders just yet. They keep it relatively spread out. Actually, 13 laps to go. But Josh Chin wants to get the move done. Shows the nose in towards turn 2. He takes the race lead over Christopher Demerit. Andrew Kinsella is the next driver the Broken Arrow team will have to deal with, but not quite able to close up and get there just yet as he comes off turn number 3 down the front straightaway. 12 laps to go at the line. So down the front stretch and in towards turn 1, Kinsella and Demerit will duke it out. Chin is showing his impressive speed and absolutely blitzing away from the field. already out to a 4/10 of a second advantage. Fight is still on for second though. Kinsella just not having the ability to get the job done. Takes a tight line in through turn 2. That's going to hurt his exit through there and on the sprint in towards turn 3. Demerit now somewhat comfortably, I would argue, in that second spot. Kinsella fighting with the handling of that car. May have dialed a little bit of front wing out of it and may have gotten maybe dealing with a really tight condition. Is that 14 car, because he does not have the pace, and he definitely seems like that car is not rotating the way he wants, which is horrible when you're in a situation 11 laps to go fighting for the win. Down Long Pond once again. Kinsella having the legs just a little bit, but still not quite able to get close enough to make the move. Down now through turn 3, coming to 10 laps remaining, 25 miles in segment 2 of 3 of the Husingfeld Triple Crown in the Indy Elite Series. It's been an interesting race up to this point. Exhilarating would be the wrong word. It hasn't been closely contested. It hasn't been the hardest fought race in terms of wheel-to-wheel action as Lichtenberg and Andrew Wood swap positions. But it's been very interesting. A lot of strategy up to this point. The early goings dominated by this man right here, the 93 of Josh Chin. Had a couple weird sort of yellow cycles where he got shuffled back to P2 or P3. Then at one point it looked like it was a fuel mileage race, and this driver right here, the 42 of Chad Simpson, he was the one who seemed to be the favorite. But a late race caution has put it back into the hands of Josh Chin. Kinsella, though, wants second, goes to the inside, and he's going to get that second spot away from the Broken Arrow driver of Christopher Demerit. 9 laps to go. So down now, Long Pond and in through turn 2 for the race leaders. Down the short chute in towards turn 3. Kinsella gets passed once again by Christopher Demerit, shuffled back to 3rd. Andrew Wood, who started 13th in this field, has now found himself in 4th, and I think might have a slight pace advantage over these two in front of him, the way that they're fighting. 8 laps to go, though. Does he have the time? The fight for the race lead is dead. 1.3 seconds between Demerit and Chin. Demerit is going to either need a caution or Josh Chin to make a mistake to have any hope of winning this thing. Down now in towards turn 3. Kinsella is there. Demerit, I think, a little bit of a wiggle as Kinsella took that second spot away. Andrew Wood is still lurking there in the background. Wood is not going to waste any time, I don't think, on Christopher Demerit. Gets to run down the front straightaway. Looks up the inside in towards turn number 1. The Dunkin' Donuts machine that stirred so much controversy about whether or not Italian food was legitimate or not is going to take this 3rd spot away. But no, Demerit has momentum up top. There's still going to be wheel to wheel, though. Actually, take that back. Demerit has him cleared in towards the tunnel turn. Kinsella been able to stretch the gap over Demerit, who's gotten shuffled back to 3rd. Wood wants that position and wants it quickly. In towards turn 1, Wood up the inside of Demerit, and it seems to be that that's the weak part of the racetrack for that Broken Arrow car. The run off turn 3 and in towards turn 1. That's where most people have made the pass on him, but he looks good off turn 1 this time. Gonna make the move in towards turn 2. Back on Andrew Wood for P3 once again. Oh, nearly contact between the two of them. Demerit gets tight and has to lift out of it. Now he might have Brendan Lichtenberg, his teammate, to deal with. Wood not giving an inch there, and I don't blame him. I wouldn't do the same thing, as Lichtenberg and McBride are very close to one another, but I will say being very, very cordial with their competitors here. As we now have to start looking a little bit out in front of Niall. Hold on, I take that back. Shows the nose on Lichtenberg on the run in towards turn 1 and can't pull it off. That's going to cost him about a car length. As they run through turn 2, both 5 miles, excuse me, coming to 4 laps to go. This man, Joshua Chin, continues to lead the way. 1.6 seconds to lead, and I think it's going to grow even more so. And indeed it does. 0.3 of a second is what Josh Chin just stretched out on that lap. Josh is flying. 42.31 compared to a 42.58. Both drivers effectively with clean air. Should even argue maybe slight advantage Kinsella, maybe having the slight hint of slipstream, but Chin out to a 2-second advantage now. Wood up to P3, trying to reel in Kinsella. He was a 0.5 tenth quicker that last time with Andrew Wood. He's going to work through turn 3, coming to 7.5 miles to go. So off turn 1 they come, down Long Pond straightaway. 3 laps left. Lichtenberg and McBride's fight starting to heat up. They know that there's probably not much left on the table for them to potentially pick up, so they might as well duke it out from here. McBride is yet to be able to find an open door though, and he's starting to run out of opportunities in towards turn number 3. Coming to 2 laps to go. Popsicle sticks in the air for the entire field at the iRacing starter stand. And Andrew Wood, who's been so consistent, just not quite able to get the job done on Kinsella just yet. Gonna have to give in just a little bit. Gonna try to maximize the exit here. Lichtenberg and McBride have stretched out a little bit as well. Through turn 3 for the final time as Wood just got the job done on Andrew Kinsella. Well, in the middle of taking a swig of water, so I apologize, but Josh Chin is going to take the white flag with the race lead, but the fight is going to be on for second as Kinsella is going to set up Andrew Wood any way he can through turn number 1 for the final time. The 14 using the draft all the way down the long front straightaway here at Pocono. Off turn 1 and down Long Pond straightaway. Kinsella is not closing, and he needed to be. Did not get the run that he needed to get to off turn number 1 through the tunnel turn for the final time. And Kinsella, I don't think is close enough, but for the 93 of Josh Chin, it's been an up and down race, but he's overall dominated the whole thing. Josh will come off turn 3 and win the second leg of the Husingveld Triple Crown here at Pocono. Andrew Wood, what a performance from him. 13th up to 2nd. Kinsella, P number 3. Demerit and Lichtenberg round out your top 5. What a race. It wasn't hard fought. Let me rephrase that. It wasn't, like I said earlier, it wasn't a boxing match. People weren't trading blow for blow here. This was a slow burner. Bit of a strategy race. You had to have the right things fall your way in the right time. And for Josh Chin, they definitely did. But I think the one driver who really feels that he left a lot on the table, things not going his way, is going to be this man right here, the 42 of Chad Simpson. Ends up in P number 7, but was at one point, I think, the favorite to win this thing, and I thought he had it in the bag. But a caution that unfortunately fell at an odd time for him. Really, really hurt and killed any opportunity he had. But with that, let's go down to your post-race results following 140 laps of action here at Pocono. So here it is, Joshua Chin, the big winner here after 140 laps. Andrew Wood in P2. Andrew Kinsella in 3rd as you see a handful of drivers start doing some celebratory donuts, which apparently you don't have in Belgium and Italy. Christopher Demerit in 4th, and Brendan Lichtenberg round out your top 5. Niall McBride, Chad Simpson, Joe Branch, Richard Holt, and Adam Plunkett round out your top 10. Relatively clean races from all of those drivers. Now we start getting into some drama. Andres Eek, John Downing, Chris Dofer, Henry Bennett. Bennett really the one who left a lot on the table. I honestly think, talking about the fact that Simpson may have had this race locked up, I think Bennett may have been the favorite if it wasn't for that mistake. Getting into the wall a couple times. Blocker 15th, Doc 16th, Holgate, Walters, Kingsbury, Niles Anders round out the 20 cars. Excuse me, 19 cars. Niles Anders did not start today. Ray Kingsbury did though. 19 cars who started this race. We are going to take a short break here on RaceSpotTV. We will be back in just a couple of moments for post-race coverage and interviews. Don't go away.
Team racing allows multiple iRacing members to team up and race together, just like in real-world endurance series. Teammates can share driving duties, spot for one another, or be a crew chief. Team racing is free, both to join a team and to create one. Each teammate races on his or her own computer from wherever they want to. Your teammates can be anywhere in the world, and changing drivers mid-race is as easy as a click of a button. iRacing features team endurance events ranging from just a couple of hours to 24 hours in length. So, if you fancy taking part in an iRacing endurance race in the future, you can learn more about team racing on the teams page on the member website. So hey, this is the new iRacing scanner, right?
Yep, this is our new scanner.
Wow, and this scans all your tracks and will scan everything else around it as well?
Yeah, you can even scan yourself with it.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, don't tell Tony that I asked, but how do you turn it on?
You just hit this button, scan right here.
Cool. And then that's just going to move around?
Yep, it'll just do a rotation, scan away.
Oh wow, that's cool. That's cool. That's
Yeah.
real cool.
Hey Kevin, can you come to the office for a minute?
Yeah,
I need to show you
right
something.
there.
So hey, this is
Welcome back to RaceSpotTV, where post-race coverage will happen here after 140 laps of action in the Indy Elite Series Husingfeld Triple Crown round here at Pocono. Championship situation going to be heating up late in the race, and because it's only me, it is time for the RaceSpot Hippie Drum Circle. Interview everyone at one time. So guys, how did your race go?
Great.
Crazy.
Awful.
That was weird.
Tiring.
I'm disappointed.
Josh, you came away with the win. How triggered were you when you were probably going to lose the race?
On a scale of 1 to 10, it was a solid 99, and then the caution came out, and
Okay, I'm too lazy to bash my desk anymore.
I was by far the happiest person in the race, I think, at that point.
You were the happiest person in the race when you figured out you were going to win the race. That is
Yeah.
That is some questionable morals right there. Let's see, who else do we have? We have Doritos, aka Draft Sad Boy, which is 100% Christopher Demerit. Demerit, why is Broken Arrow still really bad?
Dude, I don't know.
Brendan, do you have an answer to that question?
Can I throw it
That's
out
a
there
great
that
question.
they're broken?
I think it's timing. I
think
haven't had
it's-
much time to drive lately.
You think it's timing?
No, it actually is, though.
Interesting. Hasn't it been
I
timing
can-
for like 6 months though?
I can go over the math with you after the broadcast. It's pretty bad.
Math is overrated. Listen,
Okay.
as someone who has been playing poker and has sucked out on a few 80%ers, I don't want to hear anything about math. That's all I'm going to say about that one. All right, piece of money. Let's see, who else do we got? Who else is going? Andrew Wood. Andrew, you had a pretty good run, 13th up to second. Why is your car so terrible in qualifying?
I hit the wall in the second lap.
Well, you probably shouldn't do that, should you?
I actually was also a wrecking ball during the race. I had a bad incident with Walters and then Merritt there at the end. So surprised that my car was in 10 pieces. But
Yeah, that's okay. We'll forgive you. So let's
I
see.
apologize to Chad as well for that since he's here.
Yeah, that is true. Chad, I think you were probably the one who had the biggest emotional roller coaster. I know that you had some teammates in the YouTube chat who were the ones who initially pointed out the fact that you were probably the favorite to win at one point. What with the fuel mileage situation, you were the only one who could make it.
Absolutely devastated.
Who was more
when that
triggered,
yellow
you or
came out.
Ray?
Ray.
Well, Ray was probably yelling more. I was sort of starting to cry.
Well, that's. We'll just say it was Ray because it's a Kingsbury, and it's always fun to pick on them.
I wasn't sure where Demerit was going to come out once the pit stop cycled, but we were golden on fuel, and I really wanted to see that play out.
Well, I think the only person that really had you beat potentially was Bennett, and then he went and hit the wall like a genius.
Yeah, I saw Bennett, and I flew past him. I knew we were great once I got around him. And
I
then,
was gonna be close to
thank you,
him,
Race Control,
actually.
for the yellow.
I was hanging behind Brendan there before the yellow just to save enough. I needed to save like half a gallon, and then I was actually good myself.
All right, so as we get ready to close out the interviews here, I'll go down one by one, ask for sponsors, and there will be a closing question that it will be relevant to things we were talking about during the course of the race. So, Josh, who gets it done for you at a team carried by Jamie?
Thank you to everyone at Team Talent, Team Chimera. John HD especially threw together a fast setup. What if made a last-second adjustment that really set us apart, and we were by far the best car in traffic, and it was a ton of fun during the restarts. I couldn't be more thankful for both those guys for their setup work this week.
Now, your closing question that is relevant to things that were discussed during the race. Is Italian food actually legitimate, or is it all just nothing more than pasta with tomato sauce, cheese, and meat?
I used to think that it wasn't legitimate, and then I cooked red sauce, and now I'm a believer.
All right, so Josh has gone from fried rice to spaghetti, it would definitely seem like. Next in line, Andrew Wood. Who gets it done for you in that 32?
I'm going to echo Josh here. Great job for the team. Good finish. Of course, you guys for putting on the broadcast, and for Joe for the lead. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was hectic, but I had a good time.
Relevant question to things that was happened during the broadcast and things that we talked about. Are you a Dunkin' Donuts fan, or is there another donut franchise you actually like? Now, you're probably the worst person to ask considering the logo on the side of the car, but
Yeah, no, I don't support Dunkin' Donuts at all. No, I'm there about 4 days a week.
are you a cop?
I'm not a cop.
Okay, well, you sound qualified to be. Andrew Kinsilla, you come home closing out the podium. Who gets it done for that 14 machine?
Yeah, just everyone at the Power Slide Adrenaline stable. Had a pretty good car, but not the best. Missed a couple of changes that I think probably, as I was going through the race, I realized probably would have helped, but oh well. And to dispute Woodith, no, Tim Hortons is the best donut franchise.
Well, your closing question, Andrew, is Chicago-style pizza actually pizza, or is it just a whole farce?
It is a pie. It is not a pizza.
So there you go. Christopher Demerit, you come home in fourth. You have absolutely no interesting opinions about anything. So, Brendan, who gets it done for Chris?
Chris gets it done for Chris because he made the setup. So
hold on. I need to thank Trano and Norton for working on the Indy setup the first 2 weeks since this car came out, because that's all that we got.
Interesting. I'm starting to run out of relevant questions that were talked about during the broadcast. So, Brendan, any final words in place of Demerit? Just because I don't want to give him any extra airtime because he refused to broadcast with me.
If you got at least give me a question, I got nothing right now.
You don't have anything. You have no. Okay, well, this team is just.
Are you looking forward to racing next week, Brendan?
Where is next week?
Dude, I don't know.
No. Dude, you can't just refuse to broadcast and start asking interview questions. That's not how this works. You're gonna go. He's gonna go wait down there. I'm gonna flex my Will Vincent powers. Last in line, Chad. I know you're brokenhearted, but shout outs for whoever gets it done on that 42.
I have to thank Last Lap Motorsports and Big Daddy Ray Kingsbury running those fuel numbers, trying to steal me a win.
Well, unfortunately, you were unable to do so, but you still came very, very close. This second segment of the Triple Crown of the Husingfeld Triple Crown, I'm just going to completely butcher this sponsor plug, was absolutely fantastic. The last one will be at Michigan. Of course, Austin Espati won the opener at Indianapolis for this Triple Crown. Josh Chin takes the second one at Pocono. Who will win at Michigan? Who knows, as it's the IndyCar and anything can potentially happen. I might even turn up and steal myself a race win. But that is going to be the end of it for this one. This has been the Indy Elite Series, which is starting to wind down for the season of 2018, and things are getting hectic. Thank you for tuning in, and we will hope to see you all next time. Bye-bye.